India's #1 network locked and loaded. The OG of election reporting.
ये सवाल पूछे जाते हैं कि फलाना जाति की क्या आबादी है। सरकार के पास जरूर ये आंकड़े होने चाहिए।
Elections in our DNA. In the heart of every voter.
वोट चोरी मुद्दा है भी और नहीं भी है।
NDTV 24/7, India's election engine.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. US President Donald Trump is in Japan as we get to this broadcast. Viewers, he's meeting the country's new conservative Prime Minister Sane Takaichi. The duo is seeding what both leaders are calling a golden age for US-Japan alliance. Furthermore, at Tokyo's Kasaka Palace, Trump and Takaichi signed a sweeping deal, reaffirming America's 15% tariff on Japanese imports. They also have created a $550 billion fund for Japanese investments in the US. The new Prime Minister, Japan's first woman to hold office, also praised Trump's unwavering commitment to world peace. She credited protests for recent ceasefire agreements in Asia and the Middle East. Listen in.
これだけの短期間に世界がより平和になりました。でこの世界の平和と安定のトランプ大統領の揺るぎないコミットを高く評価します。私自身も強い感銘を受けました。
Meanwhile, White House officials say Takaichi plans to nominate Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize next year. Meanwhile, Trump also pushed for greater US auto sales and cooperation on critical minerals used in advanced technology. He'll wrap up his visit with remarks to American troops aboard the USS George Washington before heading to South Korea for the APEC summit. Now, both leaders say today's signing marks a new chapter, turning promises of partnership into concrete investment. We stay with Japan, viewers, where US President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Sane Takaichi emerged from their bilateral meeting in Tokyo just a few hours ago. A dozen people stood on both sides of the room holding pictures of their family members. The White House said that they were relatives who had loved ones abducted by North Korea. Trump also met with families of Japanese who were abducted by North Korea in the 70s and the 80s during his visit to Japan in his first term back in 2019. Trump suggested some of the same relatives were on hand on Tuesday as well, saying, "I remember all these beautiful faces. I'm with them all the way," Trump said, and the US is with them. Stay with US President Donald Trump, who's not ruled out the possibility of seeking a third term for the White House, saying he would, quote, "love to do it." But he rejected the possibility of running for vice president in 2028, an idea floated as a way for him to circumvent the US Constitution that bars the president from running for a third term. Listen in.
Sir, Steve Bannon said in a recent interview that there could be plans for you to be able to run and potentially win a third term in 2028. Is that something you'd be willing to challenge in court to be able to do?
I haven't really thought about it. We have some very good people, as you know, but I have the best poll numbers I've ever had. I mean, I just solved 8 wars and a 9th is coming. I believe Russia, Ukraine will happen. But we just did, we just left, and when you look at the treaty we just did, that was a war that was thousands of people were already shot at the border. And when you look at what we just did, was pretty amazing.
One theory on how you might try to serve a third term is that you could run as the vice president.
Yeah, I'd be allowed to do that.
Is it the White House's or the White House counsels or his legal position, I guess?
Yeah, you'd be allowed to do that, but I wouldn't do that. I think it's too cute.
We shift our focus to Eurasia, viewers, where Russia's second largest oil giant, Lukoil, says it will sell off overseas assets after being hit tough by new US sanctions over Moscow's ongoing war in Ukraine. That's correct. The move follows President Donald Trump's first major sanctions package targeting both Lukoil and Rosneft. Now, these are companies that together produce over half or 50% of Russia's total oil output. The sanctions freeze US-based assets and bar American companies from doing business with the firms. Jamaica is in a state of high alert as Hurricane Melissa is rolling towards the island as a Category 5 storm. Viewers, it's the most powerful storm on scale, with winds topping 250 kilometers per hour. The Met Department, meanwhile, warns that storms will make direct landfall near the border of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, bringing torrential rain, severe lightning and life-threatening floods. Evan Thompson of Jamaica's Met Service says up to 30 inches of rainfall could very well swarm central and eastern parishes. Levels unseen, by the way, in more than 1 century. Listen in.
What we have facing us is a major Category 5 hurricane that is over the waters of the Caribbean Sea and moving closer and closer to the mainland of Jamaica.
You heard the Met Department there, viewers. Meanwhile, Melissa has already claimed 7 lives, at least 7 lives, I must say, elsewhere in the Caribbean. Jamaica has not seen a hurricane of this strength in 174 years. Meanwhile, officials are urging residents to stay indoors and follow all government advisories. The storm is expected to move on towards Cuba and the Bahamas after crossing Jamaica. Meanwhile, listen into a stranded British holidaymaker as Hurricane Melissa bears down on Jamaica.
Also the aftermath, of course. Like, what do we expect tomorrow afternoon? The storm is supposed to have passed by then, but, what will be the state of the island and the people here? So that's what we're all really worried about. And of course, ourselves. I have 2 small kids. So, yeah, not an ideal holiday, let's put it that way.
Well, distressing scenes there, as you see. Also listen in to this Associated Press dispatch from Ground Zero.
At the moment, I'm here in Old Harbor. It's a small fisherman village at the southeast of Kingston. And I can see people walking to take a look what happened with the storm. And other people stay in shelter, covering for the storm is coming. So here I can see a lot of rubbish. I think it's for the sea.
It is not a joke. It is very serious, guys. And it is going to be something different. The figures we think will be astronomical. Yeah, they will be hard to digest when this is over.
We shift our focus eastwards, where 2 people, including a 98-year-old woman, were killed and 1 person injured in an overnight Ukrainian drone attack in Russian-controlled Donetsk area. Moscow-installed authorities have underlined this. A fire ignited in a 9-story apartment building affecting 2 apartments and several balconies together. 7 people were evacuated, according to a statement from Russia's emergency ministry. Now, the strike comes days after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged the US to expand sanctions on Russian oil from 2 companies to the whole sector, and also appealed for long-range missiles to hit back at Russia. The body of a dead hostage arrived back in Israel on Monday evening after the Israeli military said Hamas had handed over the remains of a hostage to the Red Cross in Gaza. Since a US brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas began on the 10th this month, the remains of 16 hostages have been returned to Israel. Another 12 bodies still need to be recovered in Gaza and handed over to the IDF. Hamas, meanwhile, has expanded its search for bodies of hostages in the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian group said, a day after Egypt deployed a team of experts and heavy equipment to help retrieve them. Now, under the ceasefire, viewers, Hamas is expected to return the remains of all Israeli hostages as soon as possible. On the other side of the fence, Israel has agreed to return 15 bodies of Palestinians for each one. Elsewhere, Turkey and Britain on Monday have signed a deal worth £8 billion or $10.7 billion for 20 Eurofighter Typhoon jets. This agreement to enhance Turkey's air capabilities was signed in Ankara during UK PM Keir Starmer's first visit to the country. Now, this episode also marks the first new order of UK Typhoons ever since 2017. More than 8 years it's been. Erdogan, meanwhile, hailed the agreement as a new symbol of strategic relationship between us as two close allies. Meanwhile, Starmer added that the agreement provides the option for the sale of more jets in the future. Turkey and the UK signed a prelim deal in July for the Eurofighters, which are manufactured by a consortium comprising the UK, Germany, Italy and Spain, led by Britain's BAE Systems. Listen in to what both the leaders, in fact, had to say.
Our countries may sit at either end of Europe, but we're strong partners, working more closely together now than ever before. We're united behind our collective security as NATO allies, united in our support for Ukraine through the coalition of the willing, and united in working for peace in the Middle East.
Biz de az önce Sayın Starmer'la bu konudaki işbirliği beyanına huzurlarınızda imza attık. Bu mutabakatı iki yakın müttefik olarak aramızdaki stratejik ilişkilerin yeni bir nişanesi olarak görüyorum.
Sudanese paramilitary forces seized a key military base in the army's last stronghold in the embattled western Darfur region. Activists and aid groups have underlined in a significant blow to the military in a war that gripped Sudan back in 2023. Medical groups, meanwhile, have reported dozens of civilians killed and health infrastructure destroyed altogether as fighting rages on between the two sides in Al Fasher, the provincial capital of North Darfur. There were no definitive numbers of the casualties. There have not been any as yet. The city, meanwhile, has been a focal point of conflict for over 1 year now, with widespread devastation and displacement together, a place where hundreds and thousands of people have become trapped. The war erupted in April 2023 when simmering tension between the military and the paramilitary rapid support forces, or the RSF, as they are called, exploded into open fighting in the capital Khartoum and elsewhere in the northeastern African country. Over in Dhaka, Bangladesh is rolling out the red carpet, viewers, for Zakir Naik, the controversial Islamic preacher wanted in India for hate speech and links to extremist networks. The Mohammad Yunus-led interim government has approved a 3-week-long tour starting today, raising serious security as well as diplomatic concerns and questions as well. Naik fled India after 2016 Dhaka terror attack where one bomber, in fact, actually admitted to being radicalized by his sermons. Banned from Britain and Canada already, he is now based in Malaysia but continues to propagate hate and extremism through his Peace TV network. Meanwhile, analysts warn that his visit marks a policy shift from former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's hard stance against extremism. Now, this move could also very well embolden radical groups like Huji and the JMB, allegedly also backed by Pakistan's ISI. Meanwhile, Indian intelligence says Naik's presence could fuel anti-India propaganda across South Asia as Dhaka faces growing criticism for cozying up to Islamist forces. When the West, former US President Joe Biden returned to the public stage in Boston. And what did he do? Well, he was warning Americans, viewers, against what he termed dark days under Donald Trump's presidency, while also urging the nation to stay hopeful and engaged. Speaking at the Edward M. Kennedy Institute, where he in fact received a Lifetime Achievement Award, Biden condemned Trump's attacks on free speech and his attempts to expand executive power during Washington's ongoing shutdown. The 82-year-old Democrat, now recovering from prostate cancer treatment, said America's strength lies in its checks and balances, not in what he calls a one-man rule. He further urged Americans not to check out, predicting that the country will find its compass again, stronger, wiser, and more just, in his words. Interestingly, it was Biden's first major speech since leaving office. Listen in.
In my over 50 years in elected public life, this is the worst I've seen it. Because truth be told, our very democracy is at stake in my view. I'll agree that our politics is broken, that political violence, never acceptable, is out of hand, that America should be a place not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace, that our institutions are what makes us the envy of the world, and our democracy is worth fighting like hell for.
Over the UK, a royal visit turned tense in England. This as King Charles III was heckled about his brother Prince Andrew's ties to Jeffrey Epstein during an appearance at a cathedral. A man shouted questions about Andrew and Epstein, accusing the palace itself of a cover-up before being pulled away by security. The king, in all his grace, did not respond as supporters in the crowd broke into chants of "God Save the King." Prince Andrew, meanwhile, who stepped back from royal duties recently, also dropped his Duke of York title. However, calls continue to strip him of all royal privileges amid renewed scrutiny of his Epstein link. Take a look at this video that has since gone viral.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? What do you think? Should the MPs be allowed to debate the lawyers in the House of Commons?
And well, it's time to take a short break. We'll be back. Much more lined up on the other side. Don't you go anywhere.
Save up to £483 on your car insurance when you've just used Confused.com.
You might be expecting a delicious-sounding description here. Some sumptuously written words. Maybe a witty turn of phrase. But do we really need it?
They just announced it.
Champagne! We are now officially Which's banking brand of the year.
Actually, we're not. Nationwide is.
They're keeping branches open. Superb performance across current accounts, it says there. Didn't they give over 4 million members £100 each?
What am I going to do with 6,000 custom-made winners' shirts?
What about the blimp?
I don't remember ordering that.
You literally said, blimp me.
The Which banking brand of the year is Nationwide. A good way to bank.
There once was a tree lovingly made to look real, yet looking real wasn't enough. It wanted to be real. One night it wondered, where are my roots? And an answer came. Your roots will grow within the hearts of those around you as you create very real memories. And for the first time, the tree felt real joy. balsamhill.co.uk.
However you choose to say goodbye, we help you own it.
Family life. It's made of ups and downs, and those little moments. But should the unthinkable happen to you? Life insurance from Legal & General can help look after monthly bills, the roof over their heads, childcare costs, and most importantly, your family. Premiums start from £5 a month and they never rise. Plus there's a £100 gift card after you apply. Legal & General. Ensure life goes on.
Tina's smart. She uses Wise to send and spend money overseas. Tina's gone. International. Whether she's sending money overseas or paying with the Wise travel card abroad, she could save up to 70% compared to using major banks. Join Tina and 14 million people worldwide who found a smart way to send and spend money overseas. Be smart. Get Wise.
Welcome back. You're watching the Tuesday edition of the World Report with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Moving to the world of business, where Amazon is planning to cut as many as 30,000 corporate jobs from today itself. This as the company pairs expenses and compensates for overhiring during the peak demand of the pandemic. This is according to three people familiar with the matter. The figure, viewers, represents a small percentage of Amazon's total 1.55 million total employees, but nearly 10% of its roughly 350,000 corporate employees. Now, this would mark Amazon's largest job cut since late 2022, when it started to eliminate around 27,000 positions. An Amazon spokesperson, meanwhile, declined to comment on this. Over in the East, China has signed an expanded version of a free trade agreement, or an FTA as they are called, with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or the ASEAN, as both faced increased protectionism from the US. And Chinese Premier Li Qiang, in fact, emphasized his country's close ties with the region. Unity is strength, Li Qiang told an ASEAN-China summit meeting after the signing of the document, stressing that closer cooperation, in fact, could help overcome global economic uncertainties. That's correct. The signing of the ASEAN-China Free Trade Area 3.0 came on the final day of the annual ASEAN Summit and related meetings, and was witnessed by Li and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who is serving as the ASEAN chair this year. Meanwhile, it's the third revision of the long-standing agreement, which was first signed in 2002 and came into force in 2010. World of entertainment viewers, Mr. Beast, whose real name is Jimmy Donaldson, has teamed up with Disney to grant the wishes of over 40 Make-A-Wish kids. That's correct. The YouTuber invited other social media stars to join him at the Disneyland resorts in Anaheim for what is now the largest creator-based Make-A-Wish event in history. Now, the kids and their families were able to enjoy the park, meet Disney characters, and even make YouTube videos with their favorite stars. Here's more.
So a lot of the kids wanted to be in a Mr. Beast video. So we recreated miniature versions of 16 of our videos and let kids compete in them so they could experience being in a video like they've always wanted. And so the best part of the day was just seeing the joy on their faces when they got to do it.
Viewers, as South Korea gears up for the APEC summit, and the Donald Trump's upcoming visit is set to put the spotlight right back on the Indo-Pacific ties, I was in Seoul, tracing a story that goes beyond politics and trade. It's a legend that in fact links India's Ayodhya to Korea's royal past and still continues to shape diplomacy even today. We leave you with this report. Take care and have a lovely day. Two nations, one ancient epic, and a legend that sailed across time. Connecting Ayodhya in India to a royal Rhine remembered in Korea. It's a story of migration, of memory, and diplomacy. You must have heard of the Ramayana, one of the greatest epics from India. But here in South Korea, there's a legend passed through centuries together that traces its very root back to Ayodhya. The 13th century Korean chronicle Samguk-Kyusa tells of Queen Ho Hyang-gok, the first queen of the Gaya kingdom, who arrived from a faraway land called Ayutthaya. Many scholars interpret Ayutthaya as a reference to present-day Ayodhya in India, a connection that's more symbolic than literal, but deeply resonant for millions. While there's no evidence that the Ramayana was directly brought to Korea, scholars have long studied parallels, from linguistic echoes to shared themes of virtue, dharma, and sacred journeys. Researchers suggest it was actually Buddhist monks and traders that facilitated exchange between India and the larger Southeast Asian region, also bringing with them Indian philosophy and the great epic of Ramayana.
Look at the along the roof on both ways. There are small stone stuffs so lined up together. The more stone statue means their building is more important. They are all appeared in Chinese very famous novel. English version is The Trip to the Western Countries. They went out to the western side. Why western? Because to the western, there's India. So the first one, the character is a Buddhist monk. Second one, they are all characters in the Chinese fiction book. They all went to India to find out Buddha's truth. So they were there to protect royal families from devils.
In the 21st century, what was once myth became part of foreign policy. In 2001, South Korea supported the installation of a Queen Hyo Memorial here in Ayodhya. And on the 6th of November 2018, during a state visit by First Lady Kim Jun-suk, the foundation for a larger memorial was laid on the banks of the Sarayu River. The gesture was more than ceremonial. It signaled a revival of cultural ties and respect for shared heritage. While the physical tombs of Queen Hyo and King Suro are located in Gimhae, her memory lives on across South Korea, especially among members of the Gimhae Kim clan, who see her as an ancestral icon. Estimates suggest that over 4.5 million South Koreans may trace their lineage to Queen Hyo. For many, the Ayodhya connection is a source of cultural pride. The Queen Hyo legend has fueled real-world cultural exchange, not only through festivals and diplomatic visits, but also collaborative efforts like the 2019 India-Korea commemorative stamps and academic forums. In 2023, UNESCO listed the Gaya Tumuli burial sites as World Heritage, further reinforcing global interest in this ancient narrative. Today, storytellers, diplomats, students, and artists are revisiting the Ayodhya-Korea connection, not to rewrite history, but to understand it through shared values and cross-cultural empathy. Because while borders divide, legends unite, and Queen Hyo's journey, real or remembered, still sails on.
In Bihar, bahut politics hai. The year's election super final. Can Jai Viru storm the palace? Or will Bihar double engine defend? Fierce fight, electric election. Biggest team, biggest coverage. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years.
Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years, covering the corridors of power, what is said, what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux from conflict to India's crowning glory. I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Hello and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. US President Donald Trump is in Japan as we get to this broadcast. Viewers, he's meeting the country's new conservative Prime Minister Sane Takaichi. The duo is seeding what both leaders are calling a golden age for US-Japan alliance. Furthermore, at Tokyo's Kasaka Palace, Trump and Takaichi signed a sweeping deal, reaffirming America's 15% tariff on Japanese imports. They also have created a $550 billion fund for Japanese investments in the US. The new Prime Minister, Japan's first woman to hold office, also praised Trump's unwavering commitment to world peace. She credited protests for recent ceasefire agreements in Asia and the Middle East. Listen in.
これだけの短期間に世界がより平和になりました。でこの世界の平和と安定のトランプ大統領の揺るぎないコミットを高く評価します。私自身も強い感銘を受けました。
Meanwhile, White House officials say Takaichi plans to nominate Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize next year. Meanwhile, Trump also pushed for greater US auto sales and cooperation on critical minerals used in advanced technology. He'll wrap up his visit with remarks to American troops aboard the USS George Washington before heading to South Korea for the APEC summit. Now, both leaders say today's signing marks a new chapter, turning promises of partnership into concrete investment. We stay with Japan, viewers, where US President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Sane Takaichi emerged from their bilateral meeting in Tokyo just a few hours ago. A dozen people stood on both sides of the room holding pictures of their family members. The White House said that they were relatives who had loved ones abducted by North Korea. Trump also met with families of Japanese who were abducted by North Korea in the 70s and the 80s during his visit to Japan in his first term back in 2019. Trump suggested some of the same relatives were on hand on Tuesday as well, saying, "I remember all these beautiful faces. I'm with them all the way," Trump said, and the US is with them. Stay with US President Donald Trump, who's not ruled out the possibility of seeking a third term for the White House, saying he would, quote, love to do it. But he rejected the possibility of running for